I think my husband's new girlfriend is a secret missionary dater, and she's trying to hunt my husband and plant the seed of God in all my kids. To start, my husband, 45M, and I, 41F, have always been poly. We started as a poly couple, and it's always worked for us. Even though it's not drama-free or perfect, we're happy. We're also non-religious. He is an atheist and I am agnostic Jewish, and this was something we discussed when we got married 13 years ago, and it's never been an issue. He has a newish girlfriend he has been seeing, and she said she wasn't religious, but apparently lied to him. I suspect she does this to convert people. I've had brushes with missionary dating myself, and it's honestly super scummy because it always starts out with a lie. Anyway, he agreed to visit her church with her, which I was shocked about because he's a hardcore atheist. And now she's demanding he bring our 3 children, ages 4, 6, and 9, to her church and spun a big story about baptism, children's classes, and other family events she said she wanted to attend. She even suggested she take out our 2 daughters to a Mommy and Me Bible class for women. He said she called it a step-mommy and me class when talking about my girls. It made me sick. I already didn't like her, and this made me angry and scared. I agreed to an open relationship with him, and we always said our children do not meet or stay with our partner's partner. The kids have never met or gone out with any of my partners. I'm honestly so uncomfortable with all of this. I told him I didn't want our children around her at all, especially in this church. He thinks I'm being unreasonable and said I'm being dramatic and a jerk. Neither of us has ever taken our children around other partners before, especially when that partner is asking for alone time with them. I'm honestly wondering if she is even poly. She has asked my husband what he thinks about certain weddings in her church, even though he has stated he isn't interested and can't legally marry anyone else. He told me she showed him photos of a bridal magazine she bought. He presented this to me as well. She's so funny and quirky, but I pointed out that a woman doesn't show her boyfriend wedding gowns and flowers if she doesn't want or expect to marry him. He said it wasn't that deep even though I disagreed. This is the first time I've been extremely uncomfortable about someone he's seeing. I already told him I don't want to hear about her anymore, and our children are not to be around her. I usually trust him, but he seems deep in these rose-colored glasses with her, and I'm having serious doubts. He already broke the don't overshare boundary we have with parallel partners, and his atheist self went to pray to a God he doesn't believe in with her. I feel blindsided and I'm starting to think he may try to take the children to her church or even let our daughters go play stepmommy with her and her Bible group. I have discussed this with him, and he has honestly started making me so angry. It feels patronizing when he said I'm being dramatic and worried over nothing when clearly it's an issue. What should I do? Is there a perspective I'm missing here? Update 1. So a while back, I posted about my husband seeing a new woman who wanted to take our children solo to a Bible class at her church after dating my husband for only 3 weeks. When I originally posted, he was out of town on a boys' trip, and I was honestly getting ready to keep records for a messy but pretty normal divorce. So the boys' trip was real, sort of. He was gone with friends I know for 2 out of the 6 days. They posted tons of photos on social media, and I thought it was fine, but before he even got home, I reached out to one of the guys' wives I'm friends with and learned it was only a weekend trip. Her husband and the other guys were already back. So where was he Tuesday through Friday? When he got home, I asked him about the trip, obviously, and he immediately lied to my face. I showed him texts from his friend saying he was back home by Monday night. He changed his story and backpedaled, saying one guy came home early because he was sick. But I'd reached out to the other guys and they were all on flights back home Monday. He said they were lying because he was with them all week long in Vegas. I asked for photos, he refused. I asked where he really was, he refused. He was angry enough to keep his bags packed, grab some of his stuff from the bathroom and closet, and leave the house to go stay with his girlfriend. He made a big deal about not wanting to feel interrogated, and how I was the liar by going to his friends asking about his whereabouts. He said, once again, I was starting drama that I didn't really want. He said I was a bored housewife and had to stir the pot where it wasn't needed. He didn't know I had found all the details, receipts, messages, screenshots, etc., and already had a lawyer, and I was prepared to file. But then it got really nasty. He came back 2 mornings later, clearly expecting me to be at work, and he had his girlfriend with him. They walked in expecting an empty house, and when she saw me, she absolutely lost her mind. My fear is that now she is confirmed to know where I live, and he gave her a key to the house. She was dumb enough to try and shove it in my face and said, "This is my house now, bleep," and threw her keys at me. I started video recording them and got her on video threatening to steal my children and accused me of child abuse and touching. I wouldn't have to rescue your kids if you took care of them, no one would have to protect them if you kept your hands to yourself. I saw the sick crap you did. She called me a child toucher for recording her among other outrageous false accusations. She said she'd been watching me and warned not even to try her in court because she had all sorts of evidence, including witchcraft and the child abuse. I never directly addressed her. I tried to stay as calm as possible and asked him to please have her leave and to come back later alone. He demanded to see the children, but I'd already given them a day off to go play at a relative's house. He accused me of hiding the children from him and said I wasn't allowed by law to keep the children from him. He started quoting laws about visitation rights as well. He wanted to know where they were, and I said nothing. I simply refused to tell him. I said we could talk, just the two of us, and he refused and said anything I said could be said in front of his girlfriend. Then he went on about how he had no secrets from her. She went into the kids' rooms and stole a bunch of their stuff, claiming it was for them when they go to live with her at her apartment. She also broke anything she could on her way around the house: vases, ceramics, wall photos, anything hanging or that she could knock over. She kept mumbling prayers to herself and at one point shouted that she was going to do an exorcism in the children's rooms. The scariest part was after I locked myself into my bedroom, I looked out the bedroom window that overlooked the road, and I saw 2 more people in his car. Other friends or church members, maybe, and this is when I called 911. Unfortunately, they didn't show up until 2 hours later after everyone had left. I hated implicating my ex, and I'm mad I stopped recording when I made the phone call. He came to the bedroom door and slammed on it so hard I thought it was going to come off the hinges. He said he needed his stuff and I legally couldn't keep him from it. I said he had to make her leave and only he could come into the bedroom. She spoke over him and said it wouldn't matter because it would be her house soon and mocked me for being scared of her. She said, "That's how they are though, they hide like rats in attics." I couldn't help myself and started to cry, and I think that's when he said they should leave, or he'd heard me call the police. All in all, it was a terrifying experience. I've already called my lawyer. I also filed a police report, not that it did any good. They contacted my husband, and he denied everything and said I was a nutcase abusing the kids. They were absolutely useless. I changed the locks, and the kids are still staying elsewhere. Cleaning up all the glass and broken stuff all over the floor was honestly the lowest point I've ever been. I never saw this amount of crazy coming. I knew it was mostly over when I realized he'd lied about the trip. He's been texting me nonstop, but it's erratic, like emotional whiplash. He apologized for her threatening me and breaking my stuff. Said he asked her not to do that but did nothing to stop her. Then he turned around and threatened me if I went to a lawyer or the cops. Using language I've never heard him use, like how I'm possessed, how I have no right to my own children because I've hurt them. He even said he was sure I had been abusing the children and he had a confession from them. He's already started an online smear campaign against me, saying he's having to separate from me for abuse, child abuse, cheating, and something about tax evasion and money fraud. It doesn't seem like anyone believes him, though. Every reply is, "Hey man, you okay? Call me," or something similar. I had to convince my sister not to interact with him. Honestly, I'm still so shaken up. I realized I'm lucky no one physically harmed me. I have sent all the videos and photos of the destroyed house to my lawyer. To add more salt, I also noticed during the chaos that she's wearing an engagement ring. It looks like a ring my grandmother gave me that I was keeping in a safety deposit box, and if it's that ring, I'll have to sue him for its return because it's a family heirloom. One of the more unnerving things I overheard was her telling him to tell her you never loved her, and he replied, "We talked about this," but he sounded like he was laughing, like she was being silly or something and not incredibly cruel and manipulative. She had a tantrum and said if he wouldn't say it, he never really loved her. It was nauseating to listen to. She ended up saying, "He said he never loved you." In all of this, he seemed oddly fine with her chaos. I was scared witless, and he was operating as if everything was normal. He wasn't overly aggressive, and he didn't try to hurt me, touch me, or threaten that he would. He didn't seem like he was drunk or on illegal substances. I asked the kids if they talked to their dad about anyone hurting them or if anything bad had happened, and all of them answered in the negative. So it seems like the confession he said he got was a falsehood. Anyway, I'm not going to share the legal stuff here for obvious reasons, but I wanted to update everyone on the situation and thank everyone who gave me amazing feedback and were especially kind to offer good resources.
Okay, let's talk about a wild Reddit story that's got everyone shook. Picture this. Someone decided to spice up their love life by going poly. No big deal, right? Wrong. They threw their kids into the mix. I mean, come on. Bringing children into adult relationship drama? That's a recipe for disaster. This isn't just a regular mess, it's a full-on terrifying mess. Think about the confusion, the instability, the potential trauma. It's not a game of house, it's real life with real consequences. Let's be real, involving kids in complex adult relationships is never okay. What do you think? Is this crossing a major line or am I overreacting?
My husband's ex-GF has late-stage cancer and her last wish is to be with my husband. Now he's flying back to meet with her and I'm thinking about divorcing him. English is not my first language, so please be kind. I, 30F, met my husband Seb, 35M, after he and his ex-girlfriend Tanya, 33F, broke up due to her infidelity, but they remained best friends. They previously lived together for 5 years, and needless to say, they remained in contact even before he met me. I would be lying if I said it never made me feel uncomfortable even once. It did, and it still does because Tanya is still in love with my husband. She never denied it and, in fact, would even call or message me when she can't get a hold of Seb. Aside from cancer, she also has some mental health issues, thus my husband would always tell me to be kind and patient. Seb is no longer in love with her, of course. She cheated, and Seb swore that he would never get back with her and that he only sees her as family. 2 weeks ago, my husband received a call from Tanya to tell him the sad news, and he cried with her and reassured her that everything is going to be okay. They were on the phone the entire day. Also, I forgot to mention that Seb and I moved to Australia from Canada a few months ago because of my job, and Tanya is in Canada. They've been in contact almost every day since we left, which always bothers me, but what can I do? After that call, my husband told me everything. To be honest, I felt bad for her and genuinely felt sad. I asked him what's going to happen now, and Seb told me he's going back to Canada, which is a shock. He then told me that her last wish is to be with him. I didn't say anything except, what about me? He said if I can't leave my job, then he's going to visit me whenever he gets the chance, and I walked out without saying anything. I've been avoiding my husband since the phone call, and have been ignoring him whenever he tries to bring up the conversation. Yesterday, I found out he already bought a ticket and is flying back home in January. I feel like he's abandoning me, but at the same time, I feel that I'm selfish for hating both of them. I'm honestly thinking of getting a divorce because obviously he's choosing her over me, but at the same time, I wonder why my husband is so attached to her. Seb considered Tanya and her family like his own as he doesn't have one. She's probably like a sister to him now, but Tanya doesn't feel the same. She's madly in love with my husband, and him granting her wish will surely make her think they still have a chance. My entire life I've been putting others first. I've been very patient and understanding about their weird relationship, but I feel sick and confused. I want to call her and yell at her for ruining my marriage, for trying to steal my husband from me, for using her sickness to get what she wants. I'm so mad at both of them. What did I do to deserve this? Update 1. First of all, I apologize to those who've been messaging me for an update. I was a mess after what happened and couldn't talk about it, even to my family. It's been over 15 months, and a lot has happened. I think I'm now ready to talk. Seb did end up flying back to Canada in January last year. Before he flew, we talked about the situation, and I told him I'd been in contact with a divorce lawyer. He was surprised, and he said he didn't expect me to leave him just because he needs to be with his family. I remember at the time all I felt was anger. I was so mad that he was making it sound like I'm the bad person. Nevertheless, the conversation didn't end well. He left without any closure, but he said he would be back in March, and I was left alone. January to March last year were the darkest days of my life. I knew I did nothing wrong, but I ended up blaming myself for everything. I hate to admit it, but I canceled the meeting with my lawyer as I started to doubt if I really want to leave him or not. I love him so much to the point that I'm willing to accept him again when he's back. During the entire time he was gone, he rarely called to check on me. I had to call him most of the time. I know, I'm dumb. I felt so alone and sad. I begged for his attention, for him to give me some of his time, to be with me again. All those times he kept telling me that Tanya needs him more. In March, I was expecting him to come back so we could talk, but he didn't come back. He said he needed to stay longer and promised me he would be back in May. I don't know what happened to me when I got that call from him early March to tell me he wouldn't be flying back to Australia. At the time, I felt like there was a switch that suddenly turned off because somehow, I stopped caring. When he told me he wouldn't be back until May, I knew I had to move forward without him. Fast forward to May, he was back. That day, we sat down to talk. He broke down and said, "I can't lose you too." When he said that, I thought Tanya was gone, but no, she's not, and as far as I know, she's still alive to this day. I asked what happened, and he told me that Tanya asked him to go back and be with me. He said that Tanya is sorry for everything. Seb didn't want to leave her, especially when he saw how bad she was doing. They had a fight, and according to him, Tanya wants him out of her life. If I were the same dumb person, I would totally accept him back, but at that time, all I could think was, he's only back because Tanya doesn't want him anymore. I let him cry, I comforted him and let him stay in my apartment. A week later, I told him I'm divorcing him. At first, he refused to leave. It was a long and painful process, but on my birthday in July, he finally realized that he couldn't manipulate me anymore. By August, he was back in Canada. The divorce is not finalized yet, but we have been separated since he left. He tried to contact me several times last year. Tanya also tried to contact me, and everyone, including my family, tried to convince me to give him a second chance. But that day in March when I finally came back to my senses, I knew nothing could make me change my mind. As of now, I'm doing fine alone. I got promoted last year and moved to a bigger apartment near the beach. I found new friends and recently got into Pilates. I've traveled around Australia and New Zealand and met some amazing people. I feel like a completely different person, and last year was the major turning point in my life. Seb still bothers me from time to time, but he knows I couldn't care less anymore. Sometimes I talk to him, I still care, but not as much. I've been told by our common friends that he's not doing well. He started drinking more and couldn't get a good job because of it. He's mostly couchsurfing because Tanya doesn't want him to live with her. Lol, that bleep. Thank you so much for your advice, everyone.
Whoa, buckle up for this wild ride of a relationship drama. Picture this. She drops that she has cancer yet. Our guy, thinking he's being the hero, rushes to her side. But plot twist. She's not on death's door, just got the news. I feel pity for Op. Her husband's ex and her husband were together. She cheated, remained best friends, and she still loves him. Talk about complicated.